What's up guys, Scott from Icon Vehicle Dynamics. We're back out shop today, but with something a little bit different. This is a sweet cherry red 2023 GMC Canyon, and this is not the first time we've touched this truck. It's been through here for a couple of different test fitments during the development of the Canyon suspension system, and currently it's sitting on our Icon 2-inch spacer lift in the front. So it looks the part, but it doesn't perform or ride quite as well as we know that it can. So we're going straight from the entry level to the top end of the product line with the Stage 6 CDEV suspension system. With all that said, let's get it on the rack and get it torn down. Well, we didn't waste any time on this thing, and the Canyon is already torn down and parts are going back on the truck. So she's not completely done yet, but a majority of the parts are bolted on. So let's talk a little bit about it. So up front, this truck has ended up with our 2.5 Series Remote Reservoir Coilovers with CDEV. What is CDEV? Well, that's our compression damping electronic valve, which is an electronically adjustable valve that will change the shock damping from basically inside the cab. No more getting out and turning knobs like you're more familiar with on our classic CDC valve. It goes a lot further than just adjusting your shocks from inside the truck, however, in that there's an active mode. And the active mode is pretty much running all the time unless you turn it off. This system is looking for G-force inputs from a 6-axis accelerometer mounted inside of our Icon Intelligent Control Module, or the IIC, which lives inside the engine bay. The IIC runs its sensor scan 1,000 times a second and is looking for G-force inputs on the chassis. And based around your settings that you've input inside of the Icon app on your iOS device, it will actively change the shock damping settings to a more appropriate one should something come up. For example, you can have the shocks set up nice and soft so you have a good compliant ride, but that isn't always necessarily great for performance should you get into bigger terrain. Well, now with IIC and CDEV, that gotcha, the big hole or whatever it may be that comes up on you, it will detect that as it's happening and automatically and darn near instantaneously adjust your shock absorbers from your baseline setting to whatever it feels like is more appropriate. Once the movement of the vehicle is kind of settled out and those G-forces have subsided, it will automatically go back to your baseline setting, and all of this is happening pretty much constantly as you drive. Again, depends on your settings, so if you don't want it to be that aggressive, you have full control over it. But the beauty of the system is the fact that you always have the correct shock damping for the situation. There's no more guessing and having to just set your shocks super stiff because you want to go fast, but then it beats you up the rest of the time. You have the best of both worlds. And you don't have to get out to make any changes. You can just quickly pull out your phone, make a couple of changes, put it back in your pocket, and the last setting that you have saved will stay saved forever until you open up the app to change it again. So it's not something that you have to regularly have out, mounted on your dash, and play with buttons every time you want to drive the truck. On my own personal vehicle and pretty much every Icon vehicle that I regularly drive with the CDEV system, I have it set up the way I like. I get in the truck, make sure it connects because I don't remember which truck I was in last, and we're off to the races. Phone goes back in my pocket unless I want to make another change. Incredibly versatile system and by far the coolest thing we've ever created here at Icon. To complement the remote reservoir CDEV coilovers on this Canyon, we opted to run our billet aluminum adjustable front upper control arm. And this guy's featuring our Delta Joint Pro for maximum articulation and maximum travel, but it's also fully adjustable while it's installed on the vehicles. So now you have lots of different ways you can set up your alignment, which is useful for a lot of different reasons. You still have your factory adjustment cams on the lower control arm, and now that you can dial in the upper independently of the lower, you can set up very specific alignment specs for certain handling characteristics, or even if you're just trying to solve some funky tire rub, you can basically change the tire's location within that wheel well. So it's very helpful, and in addition to that, it looks super cool with that H pattern machine finish here, all the laser etching on the front, and gives it that real high-end, high-performance look. To round out this system in the back is a 2.5 aluminum series piggyback reservoir shock with CDEV as well. And although the system will function with just 2 shocks on the truck, front or back, it works to its highest level with all 4 shocks CDEV equipped. And that way it'll change all 4 shock settings based on what's happening and really balance out the ride of the vehicle. It's another busy day in the shop here, and this 2023 GMC Canyon Elevation is done, ready to go alignment. So we built this guy with our Stage 6 billet suspension system, which features the CDEV and IIC system, which is going to allow for electronic on-the-fly compression damping adjustment Super cool, big upgrade over the 2-inch lift that was on here before, just that spatial lift. And we set it up at the same height. So we got 2 inches of lift in the front. The rear height didn't change, still sitting on the stock leaf springs, but has the 2.5 CDEV rear piggyback shocks back there. So it's gonna ride way better, but look pretty much the same as it did before. So real excited to get this out the door. Make sure you follow along, subscribe, check out from iconvehicledynamics.com, and we'll see you next time.